So
Please say this end up
when
with them.
in doubt, when you're not getting your way, what do? You flat out start lying about it.
See what this is. Okay, OP makes a post in r/legal advice. And before I read this, I need you to understand that she's lying here. What she's trying to do is stealthily ask r/legal advice if she can illegally squat into her son's home and prevent them from selling their home. I'm currently in the process of moving, and I've moved all of my things out of my old house into my newly purchased home, leaving my old home empty until it sells. I had a neighbor who had a squatter issue a few years back, and I'm concerned that with my house being empty, someone will break in and try to claim squatters' rights. Is this possible in Indiana, and would it stop the sale of the house?
I think it is. I do think Indiana has squatters' rights. In some county, I know not in Marion County, but I'm pretty sure.
I know North Carolina don't, but then again, like I've always
Wait a
told
minute,
y'all,
I'm almost sure Indiana
but
has
then again, I've
squatters'
always
rights.
told you about Charlotte all the time. We don't have squatters' rights and everything else, and you would like to go, yeah, because you know it's wrong. You can't be doing that. It's money, and you're slowing down money. You got to go. So I know Charlotte doesn't. We will not stop money from flowing. And if it happens to be good, there's your byproduct.
I'd have to read up on it. I don't really understand squatters' rights other than like they can occupy your property for an extended period of time. And then if so, then that means you as the owner were not paying attention to it. So it really wasn't that important to you. So now they have established residency and you must now go through evicting them as though they were renting.
Okay, here,
That's
yep,
my
yep.
that's my understanding of it. What I don't
There's a
understand is
deal.
why it even exists.
There's a deal, Deals. I'm gonna get to you, Tracy. There's a deal where you have to be, and I don't know if it's everywhere, but I know it's happening in Charlotte. There's a deal where you have to be very careful that you move people in, and it's supposed to be temporary, but over a certain amount of time, it doesn't become temporary no more. They become a resident, and you
Well, that's
literally
like a
have to
guess.
go through the
Yes.
legal ramifications to get them out of your house.
Right. That's why they've been in your house for 6 weeks or 3 months, and they
Yeah,
got some form of mail that's coming to the house. Right. That type of, I think that's goofy as well. I mean, it's something
it
that's
is.
gotten stretched, and they keep trying to patch it together by making a new rule, which allows you to exploit it even more. I get that part. I'm talking more along the lines of, um, I'm moving for my job, right? So I moved from Georgia to Arkansas, and so I would never do that. But sorry, Arkansas, ain't no way. But
Wait a
All
minute,
right.
I'm
sorry, not
moving to
sorry.
right. That was one of them. I said but and canceled everything out. So moving to Arkansas, my house back here in Georgia, I still own, and someone gets into the house. To me, that's a situation where even though I know it can grow into squatters' rights, I don't think that should ever be a thing. And the reason for that is because you had to violate the premises, right? You had to trespass to get into my house. So anything that follows, you were already committing an illegal act, right? It's not like you asked if you could stay with me for a few days and it turned into 3 months. That's different. You literally broke into my house. you,
Yeah.
you you shouldn't have any rights, but that's not how that works. And so it's like they're overcorrecting. So they don't want to kick a squatter out because they don't want to put them out where they have no shelter. They had shelter, now they have no shelter. So they're trying to protect that. So they have time to transition. Even though I'm saying this is someone who did a criminal act to get into my property, they shouldn't. There is no grace for that. But how do you square the circle where you have these squatters' rights and yet you do nothing to actually help the homeless population. It's like, how do these both exist in the same space? It's bizarre to me.
Because here's the answer. Is one less problem we have to deal with. Somebody was homeless. They found a place. Now you're gonna have to go through the judicial system with more money for the courts to get them out. That's it. Tracy, go ahead.
Okay, so Indiana does have a squatters' right law, and I'm just gonna read it because I knew we did, but there's some conditions. So in Indiana, a squatter may gain legal possession of their land if they can prove continuous use and maintenance of their land for 10 years or more, as per the Indiana Advanced Possession Statute. However, the statute stipulates that specific properties, such as those owned by the government, are exempt. Indiana indeed has a squatter's law.
If you have the ability, boy, if I'm not on Thea's, you preach this word. If you haven't paid attention to your house in 10 years,
I knew we had one, but I was like,
I'm
wait
sorry.
a minute.
I can't even feel sorry for you absolutely at all.
Here's where 10-year squatters' rights makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And this is unique because you got to think about Black history in America. Okay, so no contract was written. You were just allowed to live in this property, or you thought you owned this property. It was sold to you, paperwork and everything, but the person who sold it to you did not have the right to sell it to you. So you're in this property. So you've been here for 10 years as a home. Like, you're paying bills, doing maintenance, doing repairs, and all that, and you have a legitimate, fair expectation that you are supposed to be here. Then that's where this would come in. I just think you need a different term than squatters' rights, because I'm not squatting, right? Maybe I don't know what the right term would be, but it ain't that, right? But that's a very real thing. Like, for example, I knew somebody, so family out in Mississippi, and family been on this land for 30, 40, 50 years, something like that. Long time, long time. And they thought they owned it, but they didn't. They owned the house, and the house was sitting on someone else's land. So what they did was they leased it, but they didn't know they were in a lease, because that's what they did to our people, especially all across the South. It wasn't just Mississippi, but across the South, where you think your family owns this land. You don't own it. You own the structure that is sitting on the land, but the land was never sold to you. So they can evict you at any given time because you're on their land. It's wild.
All right, everybody.
Please say that was the last one. Please.
No, that was the last that we will hear from her.
Oh no, there's more.
No, it's not really more. Oh. We're just gonna tie this up in a nice big bow.
Thank you.
So, I love this reply from Tilful. It's bad. It gets worse. Then it gets worse. Then, geez, does it get worse. Then, when you thought that it couldn't get worse, it gets worse again. What the actual F? She is spectacularly unhinged. Man.
Unhinged doesn't even begin to describe this lady.
This brings us a really good circle. Brings us back around to the beginning where Anna and I were talking about. If this lady, like, I'm painting it as she's immature and selfish. That's how I'm painting it. That's the way I choose to take it. That's the way the story has evolved for me. But if this lady truly is mentally touched in whatever way, the whole story should change as far as how we absorb it. Because a person who is dealing with, what's the term, Anna? It's cognitive.
Cognitive disability or just
Cognitive
No,
dissipation.
it's not that. It's like where you.
dissonance?
It's just
Cognitive
another.
dissonance?
No, that's different. No. But
Sorry.
but you have a normal pathway and you have like a different pathway, right? So people who are operating on a different neural pathway, whatever, neurodivergent or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Right. So if a person is truly neurodivergent, which is just another way of saying they're dealing with mental health, their view of the world in particular cases, depending upon what their diagnosis is, their view of the world is not following A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like
Sure.
some of us would interpret it. In
Mhm.
which case, this lady is acting logically for her, but for her, things go A, D, F, P, right?
Mhm.
They're still moving in the right direction, but they don't move in the order that we're used to. So in that particular case, if this woman, because that's how this thing wrapped up, if this lady truly is dealing with a mental illness, I think that once again means you should bring some more grace into it. That doesn't mean the family has to deal with it. They don't have to. No one's required to deal with you and your diagnosis, but that it exists
Mhm.
should paint how the story is absorbed.
Yeah.
all I'm, all I'm asking, is this, and I'm speaking to the grandmother. You have a psychiatrist. Please not only talk to her, please listen to her. You're not right. And I'm not talking about you're not right in the head. No, I'm literally saying your whole everything that you're saying is not right. Please.
But is it though?
Let me finish. Please listen to other people who have your best interests at heart. I want families to be families. I lucked out. I really did. I lucked out to have a good wife. I lucked out to have a good sister-in-law. I lucked out to have a good brother-in-law. Lucked out to have a good niece and nephew. I lucked out to have good kids. I lucked out to have a good mother-in-law. I literally hit the jackpot because one of them could have been out off their rocker, and none of them are. I don't know now. My sister-in-law kind of like, I'm just doing it because she was watching the show, so I'm just messing with her. I could do that. She'll cuss me out next week anyway, so it don't matter. But I lucked out. When I tell you there comes a point when you realize that your world is crumbling around you, you need to find out what it is, why it's happening. And you need to find out, is it crumbling because the world is crumbling, or are you seeing it as it's crumbling, or is it just really crumbling for you? Right.
Okay. So I hear you, and that's perfect advice. I 100% agree with it for someone like me. Okay? Like, I'm watching, if I'm seeing my world start to crumble around me, I go to seek some help, and I need to listen to advice as it's coming to me,
Yes, Mickey
and
is
all these
asking
different
a
things.
direct question.
Yeah, Theas, do you not accept that there are people who are truly evil?
No, I do accept that
Mm-hmm.
wholeheartedly.
I've heard you say that.
What I'm the framing.
Hold on. I knew my butt. See, you pushed it. Now I'm going to call you the N word next week.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
But yes, Mickey, I do believe that there are evil people. I'll even go one further. I believe that you can have family members that are evil people. There's no exceptions in this. I say that family is assigned to you, friends you get to choose,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are some family members that no one will choose as their friend. So I do see these distinctions.
Mhm.
In these particular stories that we're covering today, I'm coming from the standpoint of just family. So how I feel, if you say that you love someone, which is I assume they loved or love the mother, they just can't deal with her. Um, you know, then my views are different. My views are very different for a loved one or someone you claim to hold dear as a good friend. When we're shifting that to strangers, acquaintances, colleagues, things like that, my math is a whole different. We're like one time we talking algebra, another time I'm talking like calculus, and another time I'm talking like just regular old arithmetic. It for some things it's going to be very simple for me, right? You put on a white robe and a pointy hat on your spare time. I don't. There's no nuance for me, right? You're evil.
You're
You
not
know, I
two.
don't care
You're
if you
not
kiss your baby
two-sided that
twice
one.
at night and read stories and pick up trash on Sunday. I don't care. You're evil, right? Um, that's going to be me placing that judgment on that person. So yes, no, I do believe there are evil people, but I do also say that those evil people are not going to be universally accepted as evil. So to their family members, they may not be seen as evil. So evil is all about perspective and where you sit
Yeah.
and how things are playing out. So for this woman, to her son, I don't know. Her son may just be frustrated with her to no end, and he had to make a tough call. The daughter-in-law could see her as manipulative, evil, and just cruel. The other daughter could see her as troubled, unbalanced. And for each of those people, they're 100% right from their perspective.
Right.
And then the woman herself, which is what I was trying to advocate in my clumsy way, the woman herself, she is not any of those things necessarily. So to each person, she's exactly what they say she is. But to her herself, I am saying to people like her, because they're out there, and one of you may be listening to me right now, and I really want you to hear this. You are not the worst thing you've ever done. You're not. So long as you're breathing, you have a chance to do something different. You get to choose if you're going to do that thing better or you're going to double down and do it worse. But don't you let anybody tell you that you are what they say you are. That's where I'm trying to come from here. I want people to always have a redemptive spirit for themselves. Because for me, I could be done with you. There's no second round with me. I'm not super Christian, right? I'm not gonna sit here and I don't believe forgiveness is for me. I don't. Sometimes forgiveness is for you. But I'm saying for you yourself, you have to have the capacity to forgive yourself. You have to have the capacity to love yourself. You have to have the capacity to rebuild yourself. Because if you lose you, you lose it all. So that's kind of where I come from. A long answer, I know, but
Well, everybody, it's over.
Oh, don't.
That was the last video.
Don't ever
Take
do
it
that
what
to
you
us again.
want. I'm not, and that's what I'm saying for Theus and everybody else. You know, I do the worst person of the year award. I'm
She's
not
top
putting her
five.
in the. I'm not putting her in the category. She's not. She
I mean,
does
you
me.
showed us one not long ago that was infinitely worse than this lady. Like the
Mhm.
like the grandma who tried to kidnap the store owner.
Wait a minute, the grandmother who tried
Man,
to
will you
kidnap the
get over
store
that?
owner.
For
That
the
was
love,
last
let it.
year. Oh, will you
He